It's Tuesday, September 5th. Welcome back, everybody. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report. Here to talk to you. My phone! I meant to grab that stupid phone yesterday, and I forgot. I was going to grab it so I could turn it off before it rings. It's all right. I'll survive. We've got three more days at Mom's house, and then back to DC where I don't have phones ringing in the background. Anyway, how are you guys doing today? Welcome. I'm going to get TikTok rolling here, and if that thing keeps going, I swear to God, I'm going to grab it. Okay. There we go. Oh my God. All right. I'm grabbing the other phone. I'm not going to deal with this the entire show. You wait 10 seconds. All right. There. All right. There we go. All right. Ha. Ha. Not going to wait for that anymore. Anyway, hello guys. Welcome. Let me get TikTok rolling here. Boom. Go live. There we go. Hello, Washington State. Newfoundland, lovely. Never been up there. Would love to at some point. Flip. Trying this again. Hey, thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Jetta. Got the box, Elizabeth. I messaged you. I'm in Chicago still, but my friend Damien got the box in DC, so that was good. Is the sound? I know you guys are good at Super Hornet on TikTok. On YouTube, is the sound working or not? Pissing me off, this thing. It makes no sense that it does this. It just comes and goes. All right, thank you, Pedro. Oh my God. Sorry. What do you use to play it in TikTok? I use a simple, a cheapo microphone for TikTok. Thank you, Big Hawk. Beep, 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 for TikTok. I had my good microphone in DC that no longer works. It used to work on TikTok. It no longer works on TikTok. So, Privit, Marie, how are you? Or Maria? You have sound. Well, that's good. You have sound for now. That's always a good start. Could be louder. Hey, you know, there's only so much I can do for you guys. Thank you, Marie, for the hearts. Anyway, guys, we'll start in a second here, just letting a few more people join us, and then we will start in with today's Ukraine news. As always, decent amount of news today. So, how are we doing all? Make sure to hit that little like button. I always forget to ask you guys, but we don't really know, but we think maybe the like button on TikTok and YouTube and everything, Thank You Adventures, has an impact in sort of letting people know about the broadcast. I mean, who knows? It may. I don't know. All right, guys, I will get... Oh, hola, Charles Carlitos Alondres. Bienvenido. All right, guys, I am John Aravosis. Welcome. This is the Aravosis Report. I'm trying not to touch my other microphone. Thank you, Mark, because I know I'm going to screw up the mic for you guys again. Thank you, Crazy Cat, for the gift. I am coming to you live from Chicago for the next 3 days and then back to DC next week. The way the show works is I talk about the latest news from Ukraine, from the war. I try to give you guys, my sense of what stories matter, why they matter. Thank you, Charles. This isn't just about, Oh, did he? Sorry. Breaking news here. The head of the Proud Boys got 22 years. Okay. I was waiting to see what he got. This is a white supremacist group here in the U.S. Thank you, Marie. And this is the guy that was running the white supremacist group. Latino, interestingly enough. Actually, black-skinned Latino. Interesting, white supremacist. And he was one of the lead people behind the insurrection on January 6th, trying to overthrow our government. Thank you, Courtney. And he just got 22 years in prison. Ooh, thank you, Crazy American. Sorry, not a Ukraine story, but I was waiting to see, and the judge was giving a long statement, and we didn't know what was happening yet. Thank you, I would block me. So yeah, that's great news. And his family, they had the mother there. He's my only son. I need to have him by me. And this all this kind of blah, blah, blah. Thank you, Happy Peach. I would block me. And John S. It was everybody giving this story, and him too. Oh, I realized how wrong I was. And you're like, yeah, sure you did. You've been running a white supremacist, thank you, Courtney, literally a violent white supremacist group, but because they caught you, you suddenly realized how wrong it was. But you didn't realize how wrong it was when you were running the group for years. Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you, Dora. Anyway, okay, back to Ukraine. Back to Ukraine. I'm glad somebody brought that up, though, because I was going to ask you. That was sort of a story I was looking for. Thank you, Ellie. And Paul Phillip. Thank you very much. Or Paul Philip? Philip. I'm calling you Philip. God knows I'm not the first person to call you Philip. I'm going to guess that's been plaguing you your entire life. But thank you for becoming a member on YouTube. That's very generous of you. Thank you. And thoughtful. Thank you, Paolo and Arifa for the multiple gifts there. All right, Mr. Big Hair. I know I got a haircut today, so my hair is smaller yet puffier. So who knows? Who knows? I have Greek hair. You never kind of know what it's going to do day to day. It literally is like it screams and streams. All right. So anyway, back to the Ukraine news, guys. So thank you, Mads, for the gift. So yeah, I'm going to dig into the news. Today's day 559. I am Greek. Day 559 of Putin's 3-day special military operation. Thank you, Suzanne and Cami, for the gifts there. And Darian. I'm sorry. Without my glasses, you could have been Darlin, so I wasn't sure. So yeah, I'm going to go through the news, tell you guys what I think matters, why it matters. If anybody's new here, one of the things I really try to do with the show is I've got a long time experience in politics in Washington, D.C., foreign policy as well, so that I like to go through the news and digest what's going on so that you don't have to sort of read the news all day, but at the same time, give you my sense of what's actually going on, knowing the politics. So that's the idea behind the show. Anyway, let me get rolling. As always, thank you guys for the gifts. Please keep the gifts coming. As you know, they support my work and help me keep going. So thank you for that. Let's get rolling here. So thank you, Alan. So the Romanian president came out today and said no Russian drones struck their territory. Thank you, Elizabeth and Darian. Interesting story. So this was yesterday. The Ukrainians said that 2 Russian drones were basically the Russians were attacking the Ukrainian grain ports like they've always been doing. But they've been attacking these ports that are right next to Romania on the Danube River, very close to, I mean, literally one side of the river is Romania, one side is Ukraine. And the Ukrainians said that 2 of the drones actually hit the Romanian side, and they have photos that they released. The Romanians keep saying it didn't happen. The Romanians gave kind of a weak statement yesterday. Thank you, Succeed. And finally, today, the Romanian president came out and said, no, the drones did not hit Romania. You know, who knows? Thank you, Paulo. Who knows? I guess the problem with this story is, I guess there's a couple of problems with the story, so to speak. Thank you, Darian. One, no one's going to war with Russia over a couple drones that accidentally hit Romania. So it's not a big story in that sense. 2, thank you, Lise. I would not be surprised if Romania and sort of speaking on behalf of Romania, the U.S. didn't sort of convince Romania that if the drones did hit you, lie and say they didn't. Okay. Because, you know, Biden especially is very worried about, you know, escalation and tension with Russia. And honestly, I would not be surprised if we told the Ukrainians, yeah, if it hits you, just pretend it didn't, right? So who knows with this story? I don't think it's a big story. It annoys me a little because if the Russians did hit Romania, they were being incredibly negligent, and we should hold them responsible for it. We should at least accuse them publicly and make them be responsible, right? But what do you do? All right. The Russian helicopter pilot is $500,000 richer. Remember Maxim Kuzminov, who is the Russian helicopter pilot that last week we found out he had defected to Ukraine. Thank you, Vicky. Defected to Ukraine and took his family with him, actually. He basically contacted the Ukrainians. I'm guessing he used their I Want to Live helpline. They have a helpline that they literally call I Want to Live in Russian. What Ya Хочу, whatever to live is in Russian. Thank you, Marcy. And the soldier can call and they can basically be like, I'm a Russian military guy and I'm tired of fighting. I want to come over. What do I do? Right. Thank you, Annette, too, on YouTube. Another new member. Very generous of you as well and thoughtful. Thank you for that. So you call and the Ukrainians basically arrange for a way for you to meet them in, because bottom line here is, as you can imagine, thank you, Oklahoma. That's very cute. As you can imagine, it's hard to defect in the battlefield. How do the Ukrainians know that you're not coming to kill them? right? So it's a very delicate dance you have to do for these soldiers, especially this guy who was coming with a helicopter, right? The Ukrainians need to know that the guy with the helicopter isn't using the helicopter to bomb them, right? So thank you, user 2119. Well, the guy was for real, flies into Ukraine. He had two co-pilots with him. He killed the two other members. Actually, the two other members of the crew were given the option to basically defect. They said no, and they were killed. But then again, it's war. He defects with the helicopter. His family, the Ukrainians got his family out of Russia in the day or two before. Very interesting how they did that. God only knows, right? So really good news. And the guy we found out today got $500,000 for it, which is very cool. So at the beginning of the war, those of you who have been with me a long time here, at the beginning of the war, you may remember, I even had like the pamphlet or we had a picture of the pamphlet the Ukrainians put out. The Ukrainians put out a pamphlet for Russian troops telling them how much money they would get for each weapon they defected with. So if they defected with a tank, they'd get a certain amount. If they defected with a helicopter, a fighter jet, and I guess the helicopter, you get $500,000. And this guy got $500,000, which was very cool. So, nice incentive for other Russians potentially, to defect as well. A little bit about U.S. aid. So U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is expected to visit Kyiv on September 6th. That's tomorrow. What's interesting about that is Blinken has been the really pro-Ukraine, aggressively pro-Ukraine member of the Biden administration. It's thought that Blinken was responsible for finally breaking the logjam in the Biden administration, providing tanks to Ukraine, which supposedly are coming, in the next 10 tanks should be arriving in the next week or 2 weeks from the Americans to Ukraine. So Blinken coming to Ukraine is a good idea. He's a big supporter, and it's just interesting that the U.S. Secretary of State is visiting Ukraine anyway. I mean, typically, you don't do those things for nothing. You know what I mean? He doesn't just come for a joyride, like, hey, why don't you come visit? The fact that he's coming, I don't know what it means. But there's something going on, which is interesting. Hopefully my TikTok connections, thank you, Adam, is still, I got a little notice on TikTok that my connection died. I was like, no, let's not do that now. Congress, okay, so here we go. So the Biden administration, in terms of aid, the Biden administration has said that they've got 5.75, thank you, Ernie. In other words, $5.75 billion available in presidential drawdown authority to provide military aid to Ukraine. What that means is, oops, oh, you've got to be kidding me. All right, I've got to refresh on YouTube. Everything is being very and now it should throw me back in. Okay, very strange. Oh, when I get back to DC, we'll have better internet connection. Hello, YouTubers and everybody. My internet's being goofy. I saw you guys say it froze, though, which was very helpful. So thank you for that. No, not hacked, just at my mom's. Thank you. Who is that? Oh, Marilee. Thank you. I'm going to guess Korean after your name, maybe? I don't know Asian languages, but that looks like Korean to me. Anyway, I'm back, guys. So Biden has basically been using, it's very complicated, but in the US government, probably like a lot of your governments, the Congress, the legislature has to approve of the money that the president can spend on Ukraine. Biden had a certain amount of money he could spend. I don't know if it was 20 billion or something like that. And what the Biden administration said today, it is Korean. Okay, I thought so. What the Biden administration said today was the Biden has 5.75 billion with the B dollars left that he can give Ukraine before he has to go back to Congress. So thank you, Beats, for that. So that's good, at least. Congress is looking at Biden's request to send 13 billion more to Ukraine. And the U.S. has provided 43.1 billion in military aid to Ukraine since the invasion. The Challenger 2 tanks, so Paolo, thank you for that. There was a little bit of bad news in Ukraine today. In fact, it looks like one of Ukraine's Challenger 2 tanks they got from Britain did, in fact, get destroyed today. It apparently hit a mine, and was disabled. The crew got out, but because it was disabled in an open area, the Russian drones were able to spot it, and then the drones attacked and destroyed it entirely. The crew survived. That is a testament to that tank. The more modern NATO tanks are very tanks, but also Bradley fighting vehicles. In other words, vehicles that are short of being a tank, but similar. Thank you, Carla. Oh, that's a very, I forgot, that's a very nice one. It's always like a different little postcard it shows at the end too. Thank you for that. And the lights too. Thank you, Carla. What was I say? Oh, the tanks. Yeah. So A, important that the crew survived. That's great. B, it's one tank. Obviously, we don't want the tanks blowing up because they've only got, help me out here. Wasn't it like 31 or something Challenger? No, it was like 14 Challenger tanks originally. But how many, is Callan with us tonight? How many Challenger tanks are the Ukrainians, did they either get or are they supposed to get? Help me out here. Mustard, I don't know, do you know? Or any of our other British defense experts here? How many Challenger tanks? I thought it was 31. No, 31 is the Americans. 14 were the Challengers, I think. All right, I'm getting all sorts of different 14. Somebody with the name Simon. Simon sounds very British to me. Thank you, Tomcat. So it's only 14. Okay. If it's only 14, then one is an unfortunate loss. Yes, yes. Then again, it's one tank. I want you to take a guess. How many tanks do you think the Russians have lost in this war? I know. I'm going to tell you. Just to put this in a larger context, okay? How many tanks are the Russians? Crazy Cat says they're getting 24 of them. A number of you got it right. 2,000. The Russians have lost 2,000 tanks in this war. So I'm not thrilled the Ukrainians lost a Challenger because obviously it's a really good tank, but they're going to lose. I mean, they're going to lose tanks. That's the nature of the battle. You can't look at this and say, it's sort of like saying Ukrainians dying too. Ukrainians are going to die in this war. They are. Ukrainian troops are going to die. Thank you, Bob. And they're going to lose tanks because that's what happens. That doesn't mean you've lost the war. It doesn't mean you're losing the war. Any case, North Korea. So I'm going to spend a good amount of time talking about North Korea. Getting very interesting, this story. U.S. came out today, and clearly, I would say releasing intelligence here. The U.S. came out today and said that Putin and North Korean leader Kim are going to be meeting at a summit next month in Vladivostok, which is just north of North Korea and sort of southeastern Russia. So it's right across the border. Very disturbing news because this suggests that Putin and the North Koreans have reached a deal probably on weapons. The Russians, I've got, like I said, I got a lot of little notes here. Sky News had a quote from a former diplomat saying, Russia is burning through artillery shells at an absolutely phenomenal rate in Ukraine. And Putin is desperate for more weapons. That's what's going on with this meeting. Putin is desperate for weapons. Interestingly, that they're having to turn to the North Koreans. Because keep in mind, they already had to turn to Iran, which was already kind of an embarrassment, right? Because Russia supposedly was the great superpower, right? And they've got to beg Iran for weapons. But worse than Iran, I mean, North Korea. North Korea is I don't even know what to call North Korea. But the idea that you have to go to North Korea and beg for weapons is pretty bad. Part of what makes it so bad is the North Korean weapons, they're saying, are probably from the 1960s. So it's not even clear if these weapons work. Which is so bad, right? A little more news on this. Putin wants Kim to agree to send artillery shells and anti-tank missiles. Kim is going to probably want advanced technology for satellites and nuclear-powered submarines. Kim is also going to want food aid because his country is always, they're always starving in North Korea. It's a Stalinist, it's a hardline communist Stalinist country that doesn't work. Hardline dictatorship. I mean, brutal dictatorship, and people have been starving for a while now. Just find you a little more on this. Okay, this was interesting. Former British ambassador John Everard, who's the former British ambassador to North Korea, says about the alleged meeting between the two, between Kim and Putin. Right, he's the one that said Russian troops are using shells far faster than Russia can produce themselves. The North Korean weapons are likely from the 1960s. He said the Russian president would not be doing himself any favors domestically, thank you, life, by going hat in hand or cap in hand to Mr. Kim, as North Korea was traditionally a bit of a joke in the former Soviet Union. That's the interesting angle. I mean, there's two interesting angles to this story. One, obviously, we're concerned if the Russians are able to get more weapons, right? They're blowing through their artillery shells. We want them to not have enough weapons, obviously. That's a concern. But the second thing, which is very interesting about all of this, is that if typically historically Russians look at South Korea as being a joke, and then the Russians have to go hat in hand to the South Koreans saying, please bail us out, it shows how low Russia has sunk. And frankly, to a degree, how well the sanctions have worked from the West as part of what's impacting this. But it may not bode well for Putin. It's one more chink in the armor, right, for Putin, showing that he's, did I say south? Okay, north. It's one more chink in the armor that shows Putin, it's sort of a weakness in Putin. Let's put it that way. Okay, a weakness in Putin. I think that's enough on Korea for now. We can always talk about more about it during the after show. Let me do a quick pitch for supporting my work. Thank you, unnamed lizard person, for the heart there. I'm seeing a green chameleon or something for your name, so thank you. And Richard for the roses. Hang on, quick sip of water. So, number of ways you guys can support my work. Thank you, Mark. There's the gifts on TikTok, YouTube, super chat, super questions, super stickers. Thank you, Mads. Again, I love my TikTok gifts. They're fun and very helpful, but fun as well. You can do memberships on YouTube like Annette just did there. Thank you for the origami there. Who is that? Allie. You can do the memberships on YouTube where basically you become a monthly subscriber. Support my work as long as you want. You can do that through the comment box at the bottom. There's a little dollar sign, I think, next to it. You click it. And one of the things that says memberships, you can click it and see the options. For you guys, you can buy memberships on TikTok as well. My Sasha News Network, named after my dog. Thank you, Darren, for that. You can see the folks that have SNN after their name, like Allie. Not Adam, but Allie. Love Adam anyway. Adam's been giving gifts. But you can subscribe that way. You can also subscribe via my Discord. I've got a Discord community. It's free, but you can subscribe there and support my work as well. You can do it via Ko-fi. You guys have the link at the bottom of your screen. I'll take a net off there. Thank you, Marcy. You can do it via Ko-fi. You guys can do it via Ko-fi. You can find that link in my bio. Twitch. Use your Amazon Prime. Anyway, lots of different ways. But if you can help, at the very least, the gifts on TikTok, thank you, WDAML and Adventures. The gifts on YouTube are still incredibly helpful. Even if you can't do a monthly membership, I appreciate it, guys, if you can help. So thank you. Hey, Robert Gibbons, how are you? More news. So weird story today out of Cuba. Okay. And not much else came up here. Dark Irish, there's apparently, as some of the mods, there's apparently an issue with iPhones, or I don't know what with this. See if anybody, although there is a link, I've got to ask maybe you mods sometime to give you the link to put real quick. 1 second for you guys. Check my profile on TikTok, on YouTube. Oh, hello, Flower Lady. I don't think I've seen the dancing bears before. That's pretty cool. Thank you for that. Check my about section on YouTube. And my about section, I mentioned the membership, and there's the link there. One of the mods, if you want to check it out. Thank you, and Chad. Very cool underwater gift. Cat, and there was somebody, Macabre. That's the other one. Adventures and Macabre, I'm going to call you. Were the two. I knew I saw two right before that. Thank you, guys. But anyway, yeah, if one of the mods can find it, that's how you can sign up on YouTube for the YouTube memberships. There is a URL. Whew, that is a very nice gift. You guys are being very generous today. Thank you. I appreciate it. So Cuba, human trafficking with Russia. Thank you, TikTok novice. Very weird story here. So I'm just going to read you a clip here. A human trafficking ring has been coercing is what they're calling it, human trafficking. Basically, the Russians have been involved in human trafficking of Cubans to force them to fight for the Russian army in Ukraine. But again, they're not calling it recruiting, right? They're not calling it recruiting. They're saying human trafficking of Cubans, coercing Cuban citizens to fight the Russians' war. I mean, this is a bizarre story. There aren't any other details on it. The Cuban government apparently is not a big fan of its citizens being used as mercenaries, which is kind of interesting because I would have thought they might have liked that. But very weird story. That's all there is on the story. And Cuba being a traditional, very strong ally of Russia, very interesting. The Russians would play a game like this. You know, I mean, God, I mean, human trafficking of Cubans. It's like, okay, Boris. Six Evo is asking a super chat question. My thoughts on the U.S. threatening the North Korea if the deal goes through. I mean, the U.S. has already threatened North Korea today. You know, we said it would be bad for them or whatever. I'm not sure what else the U.S. can do, though. I mean, we've already got massive sanctions on North Korea. You know, I mean, I'm just not sure what else we can do. But I don't know the kind of leverage. But you'd think at this point, relations are already so bad with North Korea. You know, I'm just not sure what we can do about it. You know, it's a violation of UN sanctions and all of that all of this is taking place. But I was very intrigued that the U.S. was like publicly urging Korea. Oh, hi, Danny on TikTok. That the U.S. was like urging North Korea not to do this, and I was like, urging? Why would the North Koreans listen to us? Thank you, Smolden. So yeah, I'm not convinced what I would say is I wonder whether the U.S. wouldn't try to offer them something not to do the deal with the Russians, right? Like, would you like a little more food aid if you don't do the deal with the Russians? I would not be surprised if that is one of the things being considered or talked about on the U.S. side. Because also, to me, that sounds like the kind of thing Biden would do. Meaning it's smart. I mean, it's a smart kind of way that isn't just, threatening. It's also saying, okay, maybe we can entice you, right? Maybe. This was a weird story yesterday. I'm going to show you guys this picture. So Russia appears to have adopted a new strategy for defending its bombers. And they're literally, and I mean, I will tell you this. I heard this story yesterday, didn't believe it. And didn't tell you guys about it yesterday because I just didn't believe it. And now it's looking like the story is true, that Russia has been putting, I'm going to show you guys this, tires. Oh, thank you, Dark Irish. Nice of you. Has been putting tires on top of those are tires, car tires, on top of their planes. And no one's sure why they're doing it. Check this out. It's crazy. But again, I've seen this now. This was I think Sky News had it and other people. It's real. I mean, like this was a rumor yesterday and I wasn't going to believe the pictures. The thing that's weird about it is no one can figure out why the Russians are doing this. No one can figure out, like, would this somehow confuse a drone or something? Another issue here is, tires are flammable, as Darren just said, but they would burn well. Tires are really flammable. I don't know. I mean, Josh was saying make grenades bounce. I guess you've got two issues. I mean, right. You detonate something before it hits the hull, which is basically treating it like reactive armor, almost in a way, right? The concern I would have is tires are highly flammable. Thank you, Akila. All you need to do is light one fire on tire and you're gold because that whole plane is going up, I mean, it seems kind of weird. It just seems weird to me. Maybe, I mean, is it possible that a bomb, I mean, you military folks out there, is it possible that a bomb or something could drop from a Ukrainian drone and bounce off the tires? I mean, is that crazy or is that possible? Right? Stopping the shrapnel? Maybe. I mean, I just am not, okay. I mean, it's weird. Maybe it would. Callum's saying nope. I mean, I don't, well, no, they wouldn't take off with the tires. They'd have to take them off before they fly off. I just think, like, as soon as I saw it, I'm thinking tires catch fire. Thank you, Pete. That tires catch fire. And the last thing you want is a bunch of tires on your plane, literally going like dominoes, right? The fire traveling on the, not easy to ignite. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Actually, okay. Otanbot is weighing in here. Placing tires on top of parked aircraft is an old technique intended to offer some protection against shrapnel from nearby explosions. Okay, one of you guys did say shrapnel. The idea is that the rubber could absorb some of the fragments and reduce damage to the plane's surface. Yeah. However, this method is largely outdated and ineffective against direct hits or more powerful weapons. Modern warfare uses more advanced measures like hardened hangars and early warning systems. Yes, but the question is, you are fighting Ukraine. You know the question here, Otanbot. You're fighting Ukraine. You're not fighting the U.S. So the Ukraine isn't using the most advanced weapons. Ukraine is using drones to go after these planes. And whether they're a kamikaze drone that crashes or whether they're a drone that drops a bomb, would the tires then provide a benefit against that because it's such a rudimentary kind of delivery system, right? Before we move on, that'll be my last question for you guys, right? I don't say the Ukraine. I say it when I'm mid-sentence talking about something else. I'll say the, and I stop and then switch the topic to Ukraine. I don't say the Ukraine. Right? Anyway, who knows? Who knows? I know. I just think tires burn really well. That's what if I were the Ukrainians, honestly, I'd be looking at this and I'd be thinking, napalm. How do we get something like napalm? Right? If I were Ukrainian, I'd be immediately going, okay, gas. We need to get some gas on fire that goes right on those tires, but who knows? Who knows? Putin made this really weird anti-Semitic comments about Zelensky yesterday. He's done it before. Putin did this. Remember before he was talking about Ukraine being a bad Jew? And I think, wasn't he saying how like Israel shouldn't like Ukraine because he's a bad Jew or something? Putin says yesterday that the Western powers installed Zelensky. Mind you, Zelensky won a free and fair presidential election in Ukraine. The Russians lie so much about this stuff. It always kind of boggles my mind how much they lie. But I mean, the West installed Zelensky. And again, he's hoping, honestly, he's saying this for a combination audience of his own citizens who don't know any better, but also for a lot of other people. I think for a lot of people around the world who also maybe just don't know the news and don't know any better, right? Thank you, Randy. So he says the West installed Zelensky, which didn't happen. Zelensky won the election. And that he was installed, Zelensky, who has Jewish heritage, was installed to cover the glorification of Nazism in Ukraine. So he's saying, I'm going to bots, that the West, that basically the Ukrainians love Nazis. They're a Nazi country. And the West installed a Jew as president of Ukraine in order to cover up the fact that Ukraine was a Nazi country. And apparently we did this. When did Zelensky win? 1819? Something like, when did he win exactly? What was the year of his victory? We did it like 3 years before Russia invaded because we were like, magic. We knew in advance that Zelensky was going to win. Listen to more from this. Listen to the quote from Putin. 2019. Okay. Western curators have put a person at the head of modern Ukraine, an ethnic Jew with Jewish roots, with Jewish origins. I mean, let's stop a minute. I mean, I laugh because it reminds me of what's going on with Elon Musk right now, because Elon Musk is doing a similar thing where he's trying to pretend like he's not anti-Semitic, and he's saying the most anti-Semitic things in trying to explain that he's not anti-Semitic. This kind of a comment, when it's one thing to say, thank you, Sarah. It's one thing to say, the West put a Jew at the head to try to deflect the fact that blah, blah, blah. It's BS, right? But to say they put a person at the head of modern Ukraine, an ethnic Jew with Jewish roots, with Jewish origins. I mean, okay, you're like going, okay, I get it. Like, thank you, Martin. I get it. He's a Jew, and you want us to know he's a Jew, right? I mean, right. They put him there to cover up an anti-human essence. I will also say this too. The Russians do not speak languages like the rest of us do. They put him there to cover up an anti-human essence, which is the foundation of the modern Ukrainian state. I mean, this stuff is Looney Tunes land. The Ukrainian state covers up an anti-human essence. Mind you, again, classic anti-Semitism too, because what you're really saying is, right, that there's a Jew leading the country. He's super Jewish, according to Putin, and he's in charge of making Ukraine like anti-human, which is also, frankly, part of the whole anti-Semitism thing, right? They're not really human. They're not really like you and us, right? You know, you and me. It's really, again, we shouldn't be surprised. Thank you, Andre, for the super sticker gift. We shouldn't be surprised, but it's, to me, what is interesting about this is a couple things, actually. How much it bothers Putin that Zelensky is Jewish. I mean, that's part of what's going on here. It really bothers him. He so wants to pretend like Ukraine is run by actual Nazis, and the fact that there's a Jew, not just a Jew, there's now a Jew running the country, and a Muslim is their new defense minister, right? So like it drives Putin crazy because, you know, neither of these guys are, you know, the Nazis do not love the Muslims any more than they love the Jews, for that matter, right? But it also goes to show, unfortunately, the way the Russians think, right? The fact that Putin would say something like this and not realize how anti-Semitic it is what he's saying. I will say this ought to give Israel some pause. You know, if they think Russia's going to be their friend or their ally or whatever the hell Israel thinks about Russia, you know, good luck with that. All right, Germany. Germany has delivered to Ukraine its first batch of ammunition for the Gepard self-propelled anti-aircraft guns. They promised 300,000 rounds. The first ones arrived. That's good. And Ukrainian intelligence bombed the home of Yuri Afanasievsky, chief of customs in what Russia has called the Luhansk People's Republic. So this is basically a top collaborator in eastern Ukraine. Thank you, Timothy. Working with the Russians, and the Ukrainians bombed his house. This would be behind Russian lines. This would be occupied territory that the Russians are occupying. And this is something the Ukrainians have been doing for a long time now. They have been basically outright killing Ukrainian citizens. We call them collaborators. Collaborators, a term I think my generation would most be familiar with during the Nazi era. They would be people, for example, in France, who worked with the Nazis, who were willing to work for the Nazis and, you know, become the Nazis' police and this kind of thing. They're called collaborators. And typically they're in a lot of trouble with the local population if the local population get their hands on them. The Ukrainians have been doing a very effective job of blowing up these collaborators. Usually it's bombs. It's very often car bombs, but they've also bombed their offices. One guy, they put a bomb under the porch of his mother, and they waited for him to visit his mother because he must visit her at a certain time each week, blew him up when he was on the porch. So this guy's home got blown up. And again, they're trying to send the message, and they are traitors. Because says traitors, they are traitors. But they're trying to send the message to them that, you know, you will not survive this. Very interesting. Anyway, all right, guys. I will tell you briefly. I won't sort of show you everything, but our auctions are ending tomorrow. I will show you the one. I'll show you the two things really quick. Our auctions are ending tomorrow. As you know, we do a bunch of auctions over on Discord. It's discord.aravosis.com. And I do auctions there to support my work, but also to support Ukraine. 50% of our auction revenues get channeled right back into Ukraine. Lately, we've been using it to help make camouflage nets for the military. We've also done a lot of humanitarian work for citizens that needed food and shelter and this kind of stuff, right? So I find cool stuff in Ukraine. Some of you have found me stuff too, and we auction it off. So one thing, which again, I just think these are very cool. It's a Ukrainian police badge. Now, this is a traffic police badge, which I think is kind of funny, from Kherson in southern Ukraine. And you can see the number 0058, but before the number are the Ukrainian letters H and N. I'm pronouncing it that way, however you call the letters. But those are the letters. It looks like X and H, but the letters are actually pronounced H and N, and that's for Kherson. This is a police badge from the town of Kherson, which is very cool. It's very cool. Anyway, it's up for auction over on our Discord. So check it out, discord.aravosis.com. And my favorite piece that we're auctioning off this week is a piece of a Russian helicopter that was shot down over Ukraine right outside of Kyiv the first day of the war. First day of the war, huge battle going on. Nunutak, Hunutak, Hunu. No, who knew? I don't know. I'm totally confused. Okay. The Russian helicopter shot down first day of the war. Russians launched a huge attack on the Ukrainian airport at Hostomel? That's right north of Kyiv. And had the Ukrainians lost this battle, they would have potentially. The thinking is they would have lost Kyiv. They could have lost the entire war had they lost this battle. So big deal. The Ukrainians went and made a commemorative piece. Thank you, Russell, of the helicopters they shot down. This is, well, you can see it's a piece. I will show you in a second, but it's a piece of the helicopter. KA-52 Alligator is the type of helicopter. Target destroyed, where it was destroyed. You guys can see. There's the name of it, where the location, and the actual medal they made is, you can see, number on the back. This is the actual piece from the medal from the helicopter. They stamped it, made a cool little thing out of it, made a really cool case out of it. And the thing I like about the case too is it's got the cool little, the code. What do you call I always forget what they call those codes, but that's not a QR code, is it? But when you scan the code, it pulls up a video on YouTube showing the helicopter getting shot down. It is a QR code. Okay. It's really cool. Yeah. Actually, I can look really quick right now and see. Hold on. I'll show you guys. Okay. Here, QR code, YouTube. All right. Yeah, see, there we go. It's you can hear. It was just the little bit at the end there. You saw the little bit at the end, but it's kind of cool because you actually can see the helicopter getting shot down. That is the helicopter that this commemorates. Kind of cool. Anyway, so very cool. I'm not going to show you anything else right now, but we've got a lot of cool things. Oh, that's interesting. That's the one that Starsky was captain of. They destroyed at least 2 helicopters at the airport. Oh, that's interesting. Was Starsky involved in it? You mean the famous officer? What's he call him? It doesn't call him Officer Starsky. What's he call himself? That guy? Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Isn't that cool? Yeah. So the Ukrainians made it. Actually, it was really neat too because they gave us the gift. This was a children's hospice that we raised money for. And they gave us a number of these as a thank you. So I kept one, Vlad kept one. Operator Starsky, that's it. I knew it was something. Yeah, Operator Starsky. Anyway, so very cool. But we've got a lot of other cool stuff. Go check it out at the Discord. The VIP section is for our monthly subscribers as a thank you. The public section is for everybody else. Sorry, like I said, got my hair cut today, so I'm looking at this going. All right, I'll leave my hair alone. Every time I get a haircut, I'm like, it's too long, it's too whatever. All right, thank you, Master Blaster. All right, guys. I know his dog is called Hutch for real. Oh, that's funny. That's very funny. All right, guys. Let's do questions. So open for question and answer. Let's talk. What do you want to talk about? That's the news of the day. Counteroffensive. There wasn't anything specific enough with regards to the counteroffensive. Ukrainians slowly moving ahead. Doing well in especially near Zaporizhia. Which is where the main area of the counteroffensive is going on. Thank you, Jackie. But there wasn't any, what's the word I'm looking for? Verified update. That's what I'm going to call it, right? There was a lot of news that it looked like the Ukrainians were moving up, that the Ukrainians have they may have even breached the third line of Russian defenses, which is a big deal in the area. But thank you, Martin. That they may have, but it's not confirmed yet. So it's, the idea is they need to breach through this area, which they're starting to do. They need to create a big enough hole so that they can pour a bunch of troops through, but especially a bunch of vehicles. But they need the hole in this. You get the Russian line. Let's say they breached it like this, right? You need enough of a breach so that they don't get surrounded. You don't want a small breach. The tanks and things come in, and then they got Russians on both sides, right? So it needs to be enough of a breach that when the tanks and everything come through, they're safe and they're protected. So that's what's hopefully happening right now. So, but so far so good. Again, the next month is going to be pivotal. We'll see what happens. Anyway, the Russians don't have I didn't see that, Darren. Darren's saying reports the Russians don't have winter uniforms. We knew last winter the Russians didn't have enough winter gear at all. They didn't have sleeping bags. There were videos of their guys actually freezing in like dugouts or whatever you call it, right? In trenches and stuff. I didn't see a reference that was still the case. That's wild if that's still the case. The U.S. has announced additional security packages. I said at the beginning of the show, Biden has the authority for another almost $6 billion that he can give before Congress has to authorize the rest. So, we know so far Biden's still got another $6 billion he can give. Thank you, Dora, for the gift on TikTok. Keep them coming. But no, we're not going to stop spending money in Ukraine because would you rather fight there instead? I would rather not. I would rather stop the Russians now before they get us into another war in Europe. Thank you, Elizabeth. And I happen to be somebody that believes in supporting democracy and helping, frankly, export democracy abroad. I've always believed in it. And traditionally, Republicans believe in that too. I don't know what you are, but I was brought up a Republican and brought up believing in democracy and this country. So I'm happy to spend money helping promote democracy abroad and stopping the Russians. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's funny. Where's Hutch? His dog's next to him. That is very funny. Belgium. Well, there's a story about the Belgians and the F-16s. And what's happening is the Belgians are saying they don't have any F-16s that are actually capable enough to give the Ukrainians. Now, I was also reading that they might be telling the truth. They may not be just playing games, but they're saying their F-16s are too old. And that they've been used too many hours or too many miles or whatever, and that they're not in any shape to give the Ukrainians. Like I said, some people I read said that sounds true, so don't know. Sufapod, here's the problem. I don't mind occasionally getting, because some of these things are important to respond to Putin's defenders here, who are saying, you're supporting, what was the quote here? You're promoting death and destruction by supporting Ukraine. So we should stop helping Ukraine. We should, thank you, Pam, for that. We should stop helping Ukraine. We should let Russia take over, which is what'll happen. Oh, my nephew's back from the airport here. Perfect timing. When he takes over, he's going to commit genocide. He's going to steal all their children, bring them back to, Sasha. Oh, that's right. Sasha's like, oh, no. It's not a goof. Hey, who's, oh, jeez. He had his hat on. My dog freaked out. Oh my God, that was too funny. The nephew's been gone for like a week and Sasha hasn't seen him, and he had a hat on and she flipped. I'm kind of impressed she flipped out. Actually, that was good. Yeah, that was good. I always worried my dog would be too friendly if somebody broke in. Apparently not. Wow. So in any case, yeah, I mean, you're not stopping death and destruction by cutting off aid to Ukraine. You are causing rape. You are causing murder. You're causing kidnapping of children. You're causing a genocide. The Russian plot in Ukraine was to basically kill all the elites. They had like death lists written up of all the Ukrainians they were going to kill. They were going to arrest them all first. And then anybody who basically refused to, become Russian would be killed. They were going to go after the political elites. They had a list of the cultural elites. I mean, literally, this is as Stalinist as you get, right? Thank you, Frenchie. They're going to get all the cultural leaders, the musicians, the artists, kill them. They were going to get all the political leaders, like I said. They were going to get the civil society leaders, so all the leaders of the charity groups and stuff like that. They had names of the leaders of the students who were key in the Maidan Revolution, which was back like now, what was it, 8 years ago, whenever it was, 8 years ago or so, 9 years ago. Really, yeah. So we cut off aid to Ukraine, and we are guaranteeing that these people are going to be slaughtered. You are not stopping. The only death you are stopping by cutting off aid to Ukraine, you're stopping the death of Russian soldiers. Yes. But the only people we are killing by supporting Ukraine are Russian soldiers. And I think to some degree, we don't admit that enough. As Americans, we kind of play this game of we're not involved in the war. We are involved in the war, and our aid is killing Russian soldiers and has had a significant role in killing 70,000 Russian troops, in fact. And we should admit that. I have no problem admitting that. But yeah, the only people whose lives are going to be saved if we cut aid to Ukraine are Russian soldiers. You're going to be sending a lot of Ukrainians to their death, a lot of Ukrainians to be tortured. So congratulations. Anyway, what else we got, guys? What else we got? Oh God. Don't even get me. I don't even remember anymore. Somebody's asking about obscure U.S. Senate ways of passing the Ukrainian aid. I oh, I don't think it would even. I don't even think it might not even be able to go on reconciliation. From what I'm trying to remember, reconciliation has to be what do you call it? Like taxes kind of thing. Like I'm forgetting now even what the rule is. I don't think so. Who knows? Who knows? I know McConnell, well, that's the thing. McConnell could be replaced in the U.S. Senate. The Republican who's been really sick lately could be replaced by somebody a lot worse, or he could be replaced by somebody just as good. I mean, he's very good on Ukraine aid, so you don't know. You don't know. Um, yeah, Dark Irish is saying, heard earlier the Russians are trying to recruit Cubans. What's interesting about that story is it literally is being called by the Cubans human trafficking. They're saying that the Russians went in and somehow are stealing Cubans and coercing them to fight for the Russians in Ukraine. It's a crazy story, absolutely crazy story. Do you think Russia's trying to get Cuba involved in their war? I mean, they're trying. I don't think they're trying to do it in a Cuba has to declare war kind of way. They're doing it by basically. I mean, they're stealing their soldiers. It's very weird. Like I said, the fact that the Cubans are calling it human trafficking, to me, human trafficking means when you kidnap people and usually use them as slaves is human trafficking. Or again, slaves, sex slaves. They could be worker slaves. We've had embassy employees here in the States that have done that. They've literally brought women in to be their slaves in the embassy. I mean, really sick stuff. So it's really weird that Cuba's calling it that when Russia is their big ally. Very weird. Very weird. Yeah. How many Ukrainian kids were taken to Russia? Depends how you define it. There were 700,000 Ukrainian kids in Russia. The Russians claim they were all, taken there to protect them. At least 16,000 is the accusation that the Russians outright stole, literally just kidnapped these kids and took them. But I suspect it's a lot more, probably a lot more. Oh, hey, Michaela, are you well moved at this point? BRICS will take over the dollar. I don't know. You're going to really the Iranian, whatever the hell it is. I don't know. The problem is for the BRICS are it was a group of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Problem now for them is they've decided to let anybody in. So rather than being the 5 largest developing countries or whatever, they're literally letting anybody in. So it's you're getting Iran and you're getting all of these just frankly, goofy countries that are joining. And it's basically it's almost like everybody who isn't NATO, and what's even worse about it is you are literally going to be, 1 second, Evie, I did not see anything, but let me, wait. Shoot, I may have missed it. Shoot. Tell me what the question was. Sorry, Evie. Write it. If you'd write it just right now as a regular thing, you don't have to pay for it. Thank you, Rob, for that. But it's one thing to have the largest countries, but if you're just going to be everybody but NATO, then what's the point? Then you're just, because here's the problem. Here's the problem with this. Guess who's going to run the BRICS? It's going to be China and Russia, and that's it. India's going to try, but in the end, it's going to be China and Russia, and they're the ones who are going to run it. It's going to be probably actually China is who's going to run it. Russia's going to want to run it because Russia still thinks it's a superpower, right? China is going to run it, and you're just joining a different block. So what's the difference? Whatever, man. Do what they want. Whatever. Yeah. So Evie, find me that again if you would. Sorry about that. Just put a question in as a regular question. I'll see it. Or any of the mods if you can go back and look for it. Thank you, Jay, for the good evening. When will we hear about Tokmak? I mean, Tokmak, the thing is, okay, we haven't needed the. Oh, hello, you. How you doing, huh? Tokmak is. So Tokmak is. You want to come up? You want to go there? Oh, you can go in there. Okay. Tokmak is on the way to big Ukrainian counteroffensive here. They're trying to get down to Melitopol so they can cut the Russian occupation in half. Part of the way there is Tokmak, huge, well, not huge, but huge Russian reserves there, defenses, important town. Thank you, Jay, for the paper crane. Um, and you know, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing: as far as like when would the Ukrainians reach Tokmak? What we don't quite know is whether the Ukrainians would even try to take Tokmak, or whether they're going to just get 10 miles away and bomb the hell out of it, which they very well may do. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say. You know what I mean? So in other words, we just don't know whether they're going to try to take it or not. Oh, did my mic die again? Are you kidding me? Oh, jeez. All right. All my mics are going evil there. I just unplugged it. I unplugged it on TikTok. It should be fine now. 1 second, YouTubers. Now my TikTok mic is being evil. All right. I just unplugged it. So now you got this is my iPad mic. There's nothing I can do with this now. TikTok's been having I know TikTok's been doing this. We don't know why. It's been doing some weird mic issue with TikTok, and I have no idea why. Sorry. So Evie said, I think I just got sent. I dislike. Okay, I don't. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's you. Yeah, there you are. I saw that. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Just thought I'd be a voice for some peeps I've seen in the chat. Is there anything to worry about in this Romanian drone? I don't think so. I'm actually not worried, but I saw a few who were. I don't think so. Nah. I mean, this is the issue of. I mean, thank you for that. But this is the issue of these drones that the Ukrainians, that the Russians actually shot at Ukraine, blowing up Ukrainian ports in southern Ukraine, right on the Danube River, right across from Romania, in order to blow up Ukrainian grain facilities. And the Ukrainians say 2 of the drones landed in Russia. Romanians are saying, no, they didn't. I mean, I think it's a story. I think it's a good story to beat. If in fact the drones did land in Ukraine, in Romania, it's a good story to beat the Russians with. But, you know, my guess is they didn't, the Russians weren't exactly trying to take out the Romanian government. So it's nothing to worry about. No. I mean, if anything, it increases tensions and that in terms of telling the Russians, watch it, but no. I mean, nothing. And at this point, the Romanians are saying it wasn't one of theirs. They didn't hit their territory anyway. So no, ain't nothing happening. What else we guys got? How long do we think this will last? Wars can go on for years. It just depends if the support goes on for years. That's the question, right? Will the U.S. continue to support the Ukrainians? I don't know. Depending on who wins the battle. John S. is saying, have any of those bombers with tires on them carrying nuclear bombs on them ready to go? Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. I mean, typically Ukraine has been bombing like the airports and the planes that have been going after Ukraine, right? That have been bombing Ukraine. So that would be more my guess of what the planes are being used for, but I don't know that we know, But yeah, no, I think at the very least you can use these drones, if in fact they hit Romania, as an opportunity to just kind of bash the Russians a bit, But again, I did see that, Yvonne. Yvonne is saying Wagner Group is to be declared a terrorist organization in Europe. I think in Europe, maybe in the UK first, and then maybe Europe. Did see that. Okay, guys. Kept is saying, did you see that the Kremlin appointed some FSB officer to manage the Wagner African operations? I knew he was up. A name came out a few days ago. Yes, there was the name. A guy, I think, who was the head of covert operations for the FSB, which is the follow-on to the KGB. And they were talking about him taking it over. Actually, I thought they were talking about him taking over Wagner entirely. So I don't know whether it was just Africa or overall. But I did hear about that there was an FSB guy that was going to take over, because that was the idea, was, then Putin's able to get his hands much more into Wagner and controlling them much more. You know what I mean? I don't know. Happy Peppy's asking, do you think the Russians will be allowed back into the Swiss banking system to restore the grain deal? I don't know. I mean, first of all, you can't really trust the Russians, right? I mean, honestly, I think the Ukrainians ought to take out the Russian exports as well. I mean, if the Russians are stopping Ukraine from exporting grain, then, I'm a bit more aggressive on things like this, but all you need to do is take out one commercial ship, and there ain't no other commercial ships that are going to be going into Russian ports, but Ukraine is being careful about that because they don't want to turn the world against them and all of that. Right. but that would be the way you do it. And there'd be no other commercial ships going after one sank, you know? Um, anyway, what else? What else? What else? What else? What else? Yeah, that's sorry, Evie. Sorry about that. I did see it, but then lost it. Yeah. The question. I mean, um, well, I mean, Pedro's asking, why is Turkey attempting the grain deal with Russia? Ukraine has a good way of moving grain within NATO waters. Um, I guess we still don't know whether that's going to work or whether eventually the Russians are going to blow up some of the ships that the Ukrainians are trying to get out. Secondly, the Russians are still blowing up the Ukrainian ports. So it is going to be difficult for Ukraine to export their grain if the Russians keep blowing up the grain facilities, right? They're blowing up grain warehouses that contain the grain. They're blowing up the ports that are used to put the grain on the boats, on the ships. So, in the end, it's not enough just to have these ships be able to go in the NATO territorial waters. You're going to need to basically have Putin stop going after the ports as well. Thank you, Chief. So, a grain deal is better, but as I said, you need to go after Putin's grain and Putin's commercial exports, That's the only way to get the Russians to go, okay, stop, right? Thank you, Trilitic. So yeah, sorry again about that, Evie. What else we got here? What else we got? Mary, thank you for the gift on TikTok. I'm tired. Oh, I woke up again last night. I don't sleep well, I think, as you guys know. What else we got, guys? Sorry, more questions. We talked about Romania already a couple times. No really new Wagner news. Thank you, adventurers. As we said, let's give Ukraine a submarine. That would be kind of fun. Or nukes. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. But as I've said, if Ukraine hadn't gotten rid of its nukes, it wouldn't have to be dealing with any of this right now. Are you worried about North Korea supplying weapons to Russia? Yeah. I mean, Ukraine is better off if Russia doesn't have enough weapons. If Russia's running out of artillery ammunition, that's great. So if Russia were able to get some of that from the North Koreans, that's bad. Also, in exchange, Russia giving the North Koreans food is one thing. But if they're giving the North Koreans, nose is itching. If they're giving the North Koreans technology, I'm sorry, guys. Technology for nuclear submarines, satellites, that kind of stuff is dangerous, So it's just like the Iranian stuff too. I don't want to see Iran militarily more powerful, but I also don't want to see Iran give the Russians weapons they can use against the Ukrainians, right? So, does Russia even have food to give? Well, they stole a lot of the Ukrainian grain. So yeah. And the North Koreans need oil as well. So the Russians would give them grain and oil is the idea, or some kind of food and oil. Yeah. Is Poland seeking a confrontation with Russia? I mean, Tommy, I think it's I don't know Poland. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know Polish politics. I know the election's coming up in a month or two. So you don't know to what degree some of this is electoral, beating up Russia kind of thing. But from what I hear from people, the Poles are not friends of the Russians, and that Poland would like nothing better than to give the Russians a black eye, historically. So I think what you're seeing is Poland is on the border of a country they really don't like, a country they've had bad experiences with, and a country that is now doing to one of their neighbors what Russia used to do to Poland, and Poland's getting worried. I mean, that's I think the issue. So I don't know if they want, I'm going to yawn at you. I don't know if they want a competition or a confrontation with Russia, but I think they're worried about one going there. They're worried about it. Yeah, the Russians, Daniel, the Russians are going off of something about the U.S. I didn't even know this, but the U.S. was talking about moving some nukes to Great Britain or something. I mean, the Brits already have their own nukes, but moving some nukes to Great Britain, and the Russians came out and said, this would be an escalation. Mind you, anytime the Russians use the word escalation, They are literally telling you this message is for Joe Biden and it is meant to scare Joe Biden. They're literally using the word escalation, which is the word that is used whenever people don't want to give Ukraine weapons, right? Well, the US is trying not to be escalatory, right? That is Russia's message trying to freak out Biden. That's it. That's it. The Russians, I love that. The Russians are a superior force to the USA. The Russians aren't even a superior force to Ukraine. Russia would get destroyed by Poland alone. The Finns probably would destroy Russia as well. No, seriously, in all seriousness, the Russian military would be destroyed if they got into a battle with NATO. The only thing saving them would be nukes, but the nukes are a problem because if they use their nukes against us, we'd use our nukes against them, and we'd die and they would die. So nobody can really use the nukes because we'd all die. So the nukes are nice to stop somebody from attacking you, but they're not really useful because you can't really use them against another nuclear country, right? So anybody who comes on here with bravado about how much more powerful Russia is, this was a 3-day war in Ukraine. It's day 559. They couldn't even beat up the Ukrainians. And yeah, the Ukrainians have NATO weapons. I got news for you. They don't have barely any of, I mean, they've got a lot of our weapons, but they really don't at the same time. We didn't give them the good stuff, you know? Imagine the Russians having to deal with the US Air Force and a NATO Air Force. Huh. It's like, bye-bye, bye-bye. And a lot more than 14 British tanks and a lot more than 31 American tanks they'd be facing. They would die. I mean, yeah, absolutely ridiculous. No, I mean, and this isn't even bravado. It's just ridiculous to talk about, oh, Russia's so much more powerful than America. Sure they are. I mean, it's just, come on. Again, that's what the Russians say. They've got to be proud of their lost empire, but you know, come on. Yeah, no, they just wouldn't stand a chance. Correct, Kilo. All right, guys, what else? What else? Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Like I said, I'm tired. It feels like Friday and it's Tuesday. I don't know what's going on. No idea why I'm this tired. Ugh, that's all right. Anyway, well, got much more else, guys? Or should we just call it quits? What do you think? How much do they pay me? Not nearly enough. How much do they pay me? You tell me. You're the ones who pay me. You're the ones who pay me. Keep the gifts coming, by the way. New Russian map. I am getting a new map from, I think, is it Eva? I think Eva is trying to design a map t-shirt for me. One of our regulars here. She sent me a little mock-up, which will include, it's Europe. So it's Russia, Europe, Ukraine, so that we can see sort of the larger map. Thank you, NJ. Which is kind of nice to be able to see, which is nice. So if you could join the current administration in any secretary position, what would it be? Wow. Wow. I'm guessing Secretary of State. Again, I don't think I'm qualified, but I'm guessing Secretary of State because I've always loved the international stuff, you know? The other stuff just doesn't interest me as much, you know? Defense, not really, you know? State, which would be foreign ministry for us. Yeah, I think so. Will the new map show how Russia's taken apart? Yeah, no, not yet. Not yet. What else we got, guys? All right. I'm hired. Woo, thank you. All right. I think I'm going to do my summary, guys, and we can call it quits. I'm just like I said, I'm tired tonight. Sorry about this. I know we're starting the new. That was funny, actually. Yeah, Give Me Food is asking about a Chinese map claiming Russian territory. There's some new Chinese map, and it showed territory belonging to a couple countries as now belonging to China. I forget whether the other one was Japan or what was it? Some other country that they on the map, they made it part of China, and they did the same thing to the Russians, which is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious that they made the map. Was it India they did it to? Give Me Food? Okay. I knew it was somebody else, which I'm sure they were not happy about. Well, the Kurils, it wasn't just the Kurils, though. The Russians do that anyway, right? But this was the Chinese. This was the Chinese. Yeah. No, making the territory look like it was China's. Yeah. Malaysia, Japan, and India. Okay. Please stand by. Actually, that would be very funny, Dark Irish. That thing, except of course it's a little racist now, but the one they had when we were kids was actually, I'll show you guys. I don't know. You guys abroad probably didn't have the same thing. Hold on. What was the TV holding pattern? I think this is what it, yes. I'm going to find the, hold on. I want to find the, where are my glasses? Here's my glasses. It was like the test pattern thing that would pop up, but it's the funniest thing. This was it. It was this funny test pattern thing that would pop up, but you guys can see the weird thing was at the top of it was an Indian, like meaning a Native American. And it was the strangest thing. Like when we were young, we didn't kind of notice, but there's like a Native American in full like warrior headdress at the top. And I just found that to be like the wildest thing. Like that was the 1960s for me, was that thing on the screen. Very strange. Yeah. So very strange. Your opinion on Russia's outcome in a third world war. I mean, a land war with Russia would be bad, right? There'd be a lot of death all around. I think we'd all win. The problem is, you do worry about Russia. Would they be stupid enough to try to use nukes if they were losing? Thank you, Jean-Francois. We, of course, would, never try to like win any war with Russia, God forbid. Whereas the Russians would certainly be happy to take Washington. But, I mean, the thing would be to keep not using nukes. If the Russians started using nukes, then I think we would use nukes, and then it becomes a problem. And I don't mean against us, but they start using nukes like, in the battlefield and that kind of thing. But thank you, Super Hornet. But I don't know. I mean, the Russians could be stupid enough to go to war against us, but boy, it's, without the Native American in Norway, I would think so. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I don't know. All right, guys, let me do the quick summary of the stories we covered today, and then go see what Mom's doing. Actually, I know what we're doing about dinner. I made some pesto the other night because we had humongous quantities of basil at my mom's here. So I was like, I'm making pesto, and she had never made pesto before. So it was good. I'm surprised. It was actually the first time I've made pesto that I liked it. I'm often very ambivalent on the pesto I've made. I think I've included too many stems, or I'm whipping it too long in the food processor, and I read doing that heats it up and can turn it bitter. But anyway, my pesto was very good. Romanian president says no Russian drone struck Romanian territory. Maxim Kuzminov, a Russian helicopter pilot who defected to Ukraine, will receive $500,000. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken is expected to visit Kyiv tomorrow. The Defense Department announced that they have a little under $6 billion, with a B, $6 billion left to give Ukraine before Congress has to authorize more. The first and only Challenger 2 tank to be destroyed in Ukraine was confirmed destroyed today. Keeping that within context, the Russians have lost 2,000 tanks in Ukraine. New York Times reports that Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, plans to travel to Russia this month to meet with Putin. It is expected that they're going to work out some kind of an arms deal, because Russia is desperate for artillery shells, and the North Koreans are desperate for food, but also some military aid, possibly for for satellites and nuclear submarines. That was a very long story short. That was a long thing we talked about. The Cubans accused the Russians of using a human trafficking ring to force Cubans to fight in the war in Ukraine on behalf of Russia. Crazy story. That's all we know about it yet, but kind of crazy because Russia and Cuba are really close, and that's not good for Russia. Russia appears to have adopted a new approach to protecting its planes, putting tires all over the wings of the planes. And we discussed that for a while as to whether that was, a smart thing or not a smart thing, because I saw it, immediately thought of tires catching on fire, but who knows? Putin made a weird anti-Semitic slur about Zelensky. Second one, he's done this before. Thank you, Tomcat. Germany has delivered to Ukraine its first batch of ammunition for Gepard self-propelled anti-aircraft guns. And the Ukrainian intelligence agency bombed the home of a collaborator in Luhansk in eastern Ukraine. All right, guys. All right. I'm going to call it quits, guys. I'm still here in Chicago for the rest of the week, and then I am back to DC next Monday. So we'll be back to doing the normal show and the normal backdrop. Well, it's the normal show right now anyway. But the artillery stock, Tamron saying the artillery stock from North Korea going to Russia if it happens. I had read today it's from like the 1960s. So we don't even know whether that stuff even works. We hope it doesn't, but who knows? Who knows? Yeah, cute, John. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Mods, thanks as always. Do go check out the Discord. Like I said, we've got all of our auctions ending tomorrow. So if you want any of that stuff I showed you tonight, there's about a good 8 or 9 things. They're very cool. This is sort of the end of the month auction where I have like especially good stuff there. So check it out. There's a really cool Russian watch. There's a lot of cool stuff there. So check it out. And otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. All right. Back to the usual time. Thank you, JRD, for that. All right, guys. Thank you, Wax Nancy. I'll see you guys tomorrow, okay? Bye-bye.